Hello, welcome to Cheapos MTG. I'm Alex. Today we're filming some more standard, and this time it's black-white allies. So this black-white deck is a fairly mid-range deck. It's different to the other black-white control deck that Seth Manfield won GP New York with because it actually plays creatures. It's quite similar to a deck I was running in the last standard format before Fate Reforged rotated out. That deck was Rally the Allies, using Rally the Ancestor and Allies to trigger Celestial Healer, basically to have a load of triggers to win the game out of practically nowhere. Obviously, since Rally left, rotated out, we can't use that, and so with that went Nantuko, Husk, and Sulaport Cutthroat. But Black-White did get some very strong tools out of Shadows Over Innistrad, and one of these was probably the main reason I built this deck, and that would be Anguished Unmaking. So for me, this is the best removal spell in the format at the moment. It's like a Hero's Downfall on steroids. Hero's Downfall in Standard was great because it was instant speed, removal for 3 mana, like unconditional removal. Just great. It could target Planeswalkers. Since Hero's Downfall went, we obviously got Runa's Path, which, being a sorcery speed, wasn't quite as good. But Anguished Unmaking came out. It's an instant speed. It's 3 mana. It goes one better than Hero's Downfall. It exiles rather than killed. And it's non-land permanents rather than just creatures or Planeswalkers, which means you can target enchantments with it, for example, which is actually quite a nice... the downside to Anguished Unmaking is, of course, that you lose 3 life. And I'm running 4 copies in this deck, and therefore I wanted to be able to run a deck that could afford to lose 12 life. So that shell had to be able to gain life, and therefore for me that was a pretty easy decision. It was going to be black-white. So this deck runs, we'll start with lands, it runs 24, 4Ks of Koilos, 4 Shambling Vents. You will need the fixing because you have double black, and you have cards which require both black and white. It's not the most mana-intensive deck ever, but it does have requirements, so the dual colour lands are quite important. We also run 1 Westvale Abbey. I think you can afford to run a Westvale Abbey in dual colour decks. It's not that often we'll be able to transform it into Ormondal, but it's just nice to have. If games go really long, you can start putting the tokens out, and if they survive and you get Ormondal, then that's a boost. As for the creature base, well, we're based around allies, so the main engine card is actually Celestial Healer. It's a fairly solid card. But it does a lot of work when other allies enter the battlefield. I think all the other creatures we're playing are allies, so that's quite nice. So obviously we run 4 healers. We also run 4 Undo War Clerics. It's a fairly decent way to gain life. It's an ally, so it triggers the healer. It has synergies with Cliffhaven Vampire. So yeah, it's not spectacular, but it does a fairly good job. We run 4 extra removal spells on top of the Anguished Unmakings. My personal preference, I go for 3 Grasp of Darkness and 1 Ultimate Price. Depending on your meta, you might want to change that for 2 and 2. But I find Grasp of Darkness is better. It can kill an Avacyn the turn she comes down. It can kill most early creatures. Ultimate Price can struggle. It obviously can't target gold cards. I think there's room for 1. There's some big creatures that Grasp can't deal with. For example, off the top of my head, if for example somebody played an Ulvenwald Hydra, for example, you might be facing Sam Black's Great Aurora deck, which Ultimate Price can target, but Grasp can't. We run 2 Eerie Interludes as well. This is more an experiment than definitely a key card in the deck. It's possibly correct to play 0 of these, but if you do play this deck, I'd encourage you to experiment. This kind of performs a similar role to what Rally did, but it's much harder to set up. So Eerie Interlude can bounce your allies and cause Celestial Healer to have multiple re-triggers. but it can be difficult to maintain a board presence in standard at the moment. So Alien Food can be alright. It can save your creatures from removal if you have the mana up. You can also block and bounce them, so it can work as a fog effect. It has a few decent effects. I'm not sure the deck needs it. It's just fun if you can resolve it to win a game, I suppose. We also run 4 Read the Bones, which is more life loss from our own cards. But games will go long, and you will need to draw cards, and Read the Bones is the best card draw in a 2-colour deck. I'd argue Painful Truths in a 3-colour deck is better, but we're not playing that 3rd colour, so Read the Bones is what we have. As I mentioned, the 4 Anguished Unmaking, the key card to the deck. 4 Joanna's Emissary, again, another solid ally that gains life. It's flying as well, so it can keep chipping away for 2. It also, again, has synergy with Cliffhaven Vampire, which we'll run 4 of those as well. Its stats are slightly underwhelming. A 2/4 for 4 in standard isn't incredible, but it is flying, so it's a fairly nice blocker. Evasion means it can chip away for damage as well, and this deck has multiple ways to gain life, so its ability is very relevant. We run 3 5-drops. We run 2 Core Entanglers as a way to keep creature decks in control, and 1 Malakir Soothsayer, just more card advantage. These slots would probably be Gideon's if I could afford him. Gideon's solid in this deck. It's a good way to just keep producing allies. The Anthem effect can be quite nice. It can make your fairly fragile creatures a bit stronger. And even just +1 can be quite a nice way to end the game because you've got removal spells to keep the board clear. So if you do have the money and want to try this deck, I'd certainly look at playing a playset of Gideon's. And at the very top end, we have Sorin, another tool from Shadows Over Innistrad, and Sorin's just great. Sorin's -X when he starts with 6 loyalties is great. He can get rid of most creatures. His +1 is actually just your win condition most of the time. You +1 him, you hit. The mana curve on this deck isn't incredibly high, but you might hit a Cliffhaven Vampire, you might hit another Sorin. You can doing 4, 5, 6 damage to them, especially to do with like the incremental damage. Sorin does win games. So that's the 60 card main deck. Onto the sideboard, we run 4 Duress. This deck can be quite weak to control decks which run a lot of spot removal or board sweepers. So Duress works nicely to stop them before they happen. I think got quite a good home in the meta as well right now, Duress. There's some decks running no creatures whatsoever, like Grixis Control and the white-black control deck we mentioned. So it can be a very important card there. We run 2 more removal spells in the sideboard, an extra Grasp and an extra Ultimate Price. Basically, these are for against the aggressive, like white weenie decks or the token decks. They can come in useful, like Ultimate Price can come in useful in certain matchups that Grasp isn't that good. But most of the time, you're going to be bringing these in against like mono white. Oath of Gideon is a 3 of in the sideboard, and this is a fairly interesting card. So 2 1/1 tokens for 3 mana is not a great trade-off. But Oath of Gideon works well with Celestia Healer. If you have 1 Celestia Healer out, you drain for 2. If you have 2 healers out, you drain for 4. So all of a sudden, you're getting a lot more value out of the Oath. And the second ability on Oath of Gideon is very relevant. Sorin coming in with 7 loyalty means he can -X to kill a World Breaker straight out. So that's very nice. And we do have Ob Nixilis in the sideboard, so there is just a little bit of value to be gained from Ob Nixilis coming in with a 6 loyalty counter. So yeah, Oath of Gideon is actually quite an impressive card in this deck. Infinite Obliteration. This is basically for ramp and the sacrifice decks. Uh, I actually really like this card. I know some people and some of the pros really don't rate this very highly, but this allows you to take up to 4 cards out your opponent's deck. It allows you to look at their hand. It allows you to look at their deck. You can see what they've got in the hand. You can see what they've sideboarded in. It's great for information as much as it is for its ability. So I think this is a great card. As I said, ramp and sacrifice. You can basically nullify a ramp deck by taking most of its creatures and just leaving them with Chandras, which you can mop up with Anguished Unmaking anyway. And if you take a sacrifice deck, if you take these Univocate Cutthroats out, and then you start thinking about taking things like the Husks out, most of the time that's pretty much game over. The deck also runs 2 Languish in the sideboard. We're pretty well equipped against the aggro deck. It is possible, like the mono white and the white green decks can outrun us, so we do want access to a sweeper, and Languish is just probably the premium sweeper in standard right now. It does kill all of our creatures, which is a big downside, but it's one of those things that you have to do occasionally. Don't always bring the Languish in against the aggro decks, but it's nice to have access to it. And we also run 2 Obnixlis. Basically, this deck can sideboard into being more of a control deck. If you bring in the Obnixlis, the Duress, the extra removal cards. And it's nice to have more Planeswalkers for decks that aren't great against them. For example, post-board matches against ramp decks, they're not good against Planeswalkers because they don't have access to cards like Ruinous Path. So, yeah, that's the 75. Let's go play with it. I'll see you in round 1.